Welcome to another episode of Question It, where we pose a question and each get a chance to share our perspective. I'm Kevin Strauss, the host of Question It and founder of Uchi, a simple social app rooted in one core belief that everything feels possible when you know someone has your back every day. So today's guest, and this is a special episode of Question It because we're doing it live and in person. So today my guest is Dodie Stewart, and Dodie is actually one of my neighbors, and we fall into these wonderful conversations in the neighborhood when she's walking her dogs. So I thought it'd be great to have Dodie on the show. So Dodie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
And would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Dodie Stewart, or Dolores Stewart. However, nobody calls me Dolores. My parents named me after a Mexican movie star because they were very young, Dolores Del Rio. Anyway, so I've been Dodie almost my whole life. So.
Yeah, I only know you as Dodie.
Yeah,
My
thank God.
neighbor Dodie with the poodles.
With the poodles.
Right. Cool. Well, thanks for being here. Dodie chose a question from the big list, and today's question is, tell me about a time when someone saw something in you that you didn't see in yourself.
And the answer is.
So go for it.
Goes back years and years, but when I think about it, it was profound. I lived in Hampton, Virginia with my husband and my two little children, and we had friends in the neighborhood. And one of our neighbors, who was an attorney and very bright, decided to run to be the mayor of Hampton, Virginia. And he asked me to be his manager. Me? You want me to be your manager? And I did. I managed his campaign as best I could, and he won. And I was also an active environmentalist at the time. I was in the junior league, and they made me their first environmental chairman, which was a great time because Hampton Roads was so polluted, and I got to get on that. And that led the governor of Virginia appointing me to the Virginia State Water Control Board for 4 years. So and the man for whom I was the manager was very close to Linwood Holton, the governor. And my friend recommended me to Linwood Holton to serve on the board for 4 years. And that changed my life. It really did. It just opened up so many different things.
Wow. So about what year was this? When did this?
The 60s.
Okay, this was in the 60s.
The beginning of the environmental movement. Right at the very beginning.
And what was it that they saw in you that you didn't see in yourself?
Well, I was an unemployed mom, I had two small children, and I volunteered. I was in the junior league, and I volunteered. But I guess it was managing David's campaign that I realized I had management skills. I hadn't thought about it before. I just had never, because got married young, had children, and I managed my own house. But it wasn't, and that just opened up so many worlds. It just was crazy.
Well, I mean, you listed a bunch, right? Like you're managing a campaign. You were getting into environmentalism and activism. You were working in the community, cleaning up the community. So you had a lot of skills that were drawn out.
Well, I had a lot of interests that I didn't realize I didn't have a way of expressing. And the interest in the environment, I think. And I still, to this day, go out and pick up trash. I'm in a small group of trash picker-uppers. We get together 2 or 3 times a month to pick up litter.
So it's still bleeding into today.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I pick up the litter here all the time.
So you were starting, you had some interest back then, but did you know about it, or did those interests start to come out?
They evolved. I was in this organization called the Junior League, and that was right when the environmental movement started. And I raised my hand. They wanted a chairman, so I raised my hand. And that all led to that.
So you're volunteering for that.
Yeah, volunteered for it. And that volunteer job, led to the governor of Virginia appointing me to the Virginia State Water Control Board for 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now even more responsibility.
Yeah, it was a statewide responsibility. No, yeah. It was, and I was, was young and had little kids, but they all worked. I can remember one time, and I lived in Hampton Roads in Hampton, Virginia, right on Hampton Roads, and I can remember once I was appointed, I got a phone call one night from somebody who wouldn't give me his name. He said he worked at the sewage treatment plant in Newport News. And he said, you need to know that they have bypassed the treatment facility and they're just dumping raw sewage into Hampton Roads. He said he wouldn't give me his name. So I got my children in the car.
So like an anonymous tip.
It was an anonymous tip. It ended up being a big court fight against them. So, and I was very young and very not used to having to go into court and testify. But anyway, that led me.
Oh my God! So you had to testify in court.
Correct.
Also.
We sued them.
And how long did all that job and all that work last?
The appointment for the State Water Control Board was 4 years.
Okay, but from when the time like the governor started pulling you in until
4 years.
Okay, so it was the 4 year, like his tenure as governor.
I can't remember. I think I survived his tenure as governor. It was Linwood Holton. He's now deceased, but Jamie Raskin, that was his father-in-law.
Oh,
Linwood
okay,
Holton
Raskin, who
turned out to be, and that was. It's a small world.
Yeah, that is.
But that was a long time, a long time ago.
And then did that open up doors or give you ideas? Once that 4 year.
Oh, it made a huge difference in my life. I got job offers.
Because of all that experience.
Because of my being active. Yeah.
And how did you balance the home life and work life at that point? Like
you just do it. The Water Control Board, I'm not sure what they do now, but met in Richmond 4 times a year, and it was a 2 or 3 day commitment. So I drive from Hampton to Richmond, and just, participate in the board. Mm-hmm. I was always the only woman on the board. I was the second woman ever appointed.
Well, yeah, and if it was in the 60s or early 70s, I mean, mm-hmm. women couldn't even get a credit card on their own till like 72 or something.
Linwood Holden deserved all sorts of credit. Not only did he go after the environment big time, but he appointed me. He just
appointing a woman mm-hmm. in that. So what made him do that? What
I don't.
How did you first connect with him then? How did he know of you? How did he know that?
The person for whom I was their campaign chairman, David Montague, he was a good friend of Linwood Holton. And David saw what I was doing in the local community in Hampton and Newport News, and David told him that he should appoint me.
Okay, so what were you doing in the local community before that?
Picking up trash.
It's all about picking up trash, which is a big deal.
And trying to organize people to do that. Or we're doing it right now too, the same kind of thing. But it led me
organizing people to work together.
Correct.
For the common good, the community, the common good.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. You get to know new people. You get to be outside. And you make a difference, maybe a small one. If you pick up trash on Columbia Road, you made a difference.
Very true. Well, and the other thing that always reminds me about like trash pickup and sewage and waste disposal, things like that, is it's not sexy, shiny, fun work.
No.
like there's so many efforts to get clean water, drinkable water to communities and far off in other countries and so on. And that's all important. Like we need water to live, but we can't live in our sewage either. No. And if we don't address the yucky, gross stuff, we're diseased. We're going to get sick and die, so we really need, both ends of the spectrum.
You need a clean environment.
Yeah.
You need for your systems to work. You need for the people who are responsible for the wastewater treatment and the water supply to do their jobs.
Yeah.
And it is incumbent upon us as citizens to watch it, to make sure they're doing it, to get in there, to participate.
Yeah. Because if we don't, and you can see it like when, just as I was walking over today, trash was coming around for trash pickup. Mm-hmm. And, okay, that's great. But, if you don't have trash pickup for a month, once a week for a month, it is not going to be a good story in your neighborhood.
The systems have to work. Your
All the
government has
systems.
to work.
It has to.
And we're lucky to live where we do. I've lived other places where the systems did not work anywhere near as well as we do here. But it's incumbent upon us to watch that and to do what we can to support it. And a lot of people don't think that way.
Like we take it for granted.
We take it for granted and we assume we don't have any responsibility. We're all responsible.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the wisdom. That's understanding that we're all in this together.
You have to understand that all we are is we're a worldwide system, and every one of us has to do something to support it.
Yeah, and if we don't, things can fall apart fast. Like with COVID. Yeah. Things fall apart.
The wheels
really
come off
fast.
quickly.
Yeah.
And there's no guarantees. I mean, all you can do is all you can do. And anyway, I've learned over the years that do what you can.
Right. Do what we can, do our best.
Yeah.
And make sure we're not hurting others or ourselves in the process. And that's what I focus on a lot nowadays is do my actions hurt anyone in any way? Do
no harm.
Yeah.
That's one of the tenets of the environmental movement is do no harm.
Yeah. We can take it right from, medicine, but it works with even just in any school, any business, any community, in your own family, and we miss the part about the kind of harm that we're inflicting, even unintentionally, but we inflict emotional harm constantly, unintentionally, like by interrupting when someone's speaking or finishing their sentence.
Well, that's,
right.
You have to be aware you're doing it. And that's hard. I have to tell you something. I have to interrupt you because what I have to say is more important than what you're saying.
Because I need to be heard.
Yeah, I need to be heard.
Yeah. Well, we all need to be heard, but we need to give each other the chance to be heard, which is actually a big point of this podcast. But yeah, wow.
Anyway, that's the one thing and it led to a progression of opportunities in my whole life.
Anything you want to point out or share? It's okay. It's okay to brag.
I'm not bragging. I ended up being a legal administrator. And why did I become a legal administrator? Well, I was working for Legal Aid in Jacksonville. I was a volunteer in Legal Aid. This is 100 years ago. And
not literally.
Almost. I volunteered at because Junior League, you have to volunteer. So I volunteered at Legal Aid. I did divorce intake, which was interesting to see how few, women who were in really bad, destructive relationships, and they needed to be out of them. And that's what Legal Aid did, and they didn't charge them. So I would do intake. I do divorce intake, just take all their information. Okay. And then they advertised for an administrator. And I said, I can do that. Again, I was a volunteer. I looked over, so they hired me. And I ended up, long story short, I was the administrator for Rouse when they were sold. But there were several administrator jobs in between, all with law firms. And I came up to Maryland to work for Rouse. They hired me when they administrative position. They created a new position, and they offered the job to me, and that's how I got to Maryland. Best thing that ever happened.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So there's a definite progression.
Okay, and just share for the audience, what's Rouse?
Oh, golly, Ned. Rouse, Jim Rouse founded Columbia.
So we live in Columbia, Maryland.
We live in Columbia. A lot of people don't know that now. But Jim Rouse was an amazing person. He created basically the shopping center concept. And he developed shopping centers all around the country, all across the country. But the headquarters for that company is here. And ironically, when I was on the environmental committee for the Junior League 100 years ago in the 60s, they sent me up here to meet with Rouse because Rouse was just getting started. There was no mall. There was the Rouse building.
We have a Columbia Mall.
Yeah, there was no. I came up here, and the only thing really you could see was the Rouse building, which was is still on the lake. And I met with them. We're talking about land use planning. And it's so ironic. I ended up working for them years later. I was hired by them.
I mean, what a path, like to draw this whole path of your life,
they've been awesome.
of your career.
So this lovely man who asked me to be his campaign manager when I knew nothing about anything, I can draw a definite line to the whole thing. I feel very lucky.
It's beautiful. That's a fun life.
Well, I wouldn't call it fun because it's
rewarding.
It's profoundly
rewarding.
Yeah. But not easy.
Not easy.
I'm not going to say it was. It's been easy.
Yeah, but that makes it richer, maybe.
Makes it more meaningful.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so the Rouse Company, basically, and Dodie's work planned out the Columbia community. So, like, there's different neighborhoods, villages.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I don't even know this, and I've lived here for over 30 years. Different villages. There's a shopping center, and however the schools work, and the neighborhoods for residential and retail and so on. And it's all planned out and organized in these villages, and it's the planned community, and it's like the first planned community.
I don't know that for a fact, but it's one of the few. And when I came up in the 60s to meet at the Rouse building, which was the only thing there, they sat around and talked about what they were going to do and how they were going to
do it. Really intentional.
Totally planned out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody who wants land use planning, or city planning, if you have any interest in that, you should start with with Jim Rouse.
Oh, and like learning about that history and how
he did it.
Oh, wow.
And he was
I wonder if they teach that in schools, like, because there's a lot of like urban planning curriculum and all that kind of stuff.
It's factored in because he was first.
Yeah.
I think he was first. But he was such a kind, gentle, quiet, self-effacing man. It was never about him. It was always about the community he was building.
Wow.
So coming up to work for Rouse after having worked for law firms, for-profit law firms, was such a relief because the Rouse legal division was about taking care of what needed to be taken care of, not about money. It wasn't about the dollar.
And that probably mattered even more to you personally.
Because you could see what you were doing.
Yeah.
And if you're and I'm not putting down for-profit any things, but if your motivation is the dollar, which, and I guess with attorneys, it's pride in their legal work too, of course. But it was really the dollar.
Yeah.
I was the administrator, so I had to manage the financial part of it and everything else. So
doing the books.
Yeah. So you could see how important it was.
Yeah. Well, and so often, one of the things that humanity, I think, is struggling with, especially with capitalism, not that I'm against capitalism, but we need to understand that there's a lot of other ways to value each other than by money, power, or status. And that's what we often gravitate toward is money, power, status.
Well, they're obvious, and they're like the shiny object in the room.
Right.
And
well, they get us the most attention, and again, value. We deem it as the most valuable. And what I've learned over the years is how valuable we think something is translates in our brain to how loved we are. So value equals love in our brain, and love is a basic need. And love is what helps us survive. So if I have the most power or money or status, I'm eating first, I'm bathing first, I'm getting the best bed, I'm getting the best clothing, I'm more likely to survive. But we really survive best when we're together, which is what Rouse was.
When you're a community.
Community, together.
Jim Rouse redefined the word community. I mean, he really, I didn't.
And this would be in the early 70s.
Late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah.
And I met him then 100 years ago, and then I got to meet him after I came. It was just like crazy that I ended up working for Rouse. I mean, here I was, a little housewife in Hampton, Virginia, when I came up here to talk to him.
And where'd you grow up?
New Haven, Connecticut.
New Haven, Connecticut. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're making your way up and down the East Coast for sure.
I did, yeah. I was raised in New Haven, Connecticut, which is by Southern parents who had a real adjustment to make to living
Southern
in New Haven,
parents to Connecticut to New England.
It was hard for them, but it worked out.
Wow. Wow. Well, thank you
You're
so much
welcome.
for
You're
sharing
welcome.
all of that. I'm always learning something new about you, which is really fun
Oh.
for me.
Well, when you
So
get to be old, you have stories, I
lots of
guess.
stories, which
Yeah.
is great, which is great. Okay. So true to form,
Okay.
I get to go and you get to listen to me.
Okay.
So again, tell me about a time when someone saw something in you that you didn't see in yourself. Okay. So I think what comes up for me is I don't even know when this was, but it wasn't that long ago. It was within the last 7, 8 years, and I was on my deck. So from my deck, I can see Dodie's house.
We're close neighbors.
And I was having a conversation with a friend, and we've been having lots of conversations. We've never met in person, actually, this
Oh,
friend.
okay.
I don't think I'll say her name just for privacy, but, and we were having regular conversations, weekly or every couple of weeks or whatever. And these conversations could last, 1, 2, 3 hours,
Mm-hmm.
and we're just going back and forth, having all this fun discussion and everything. So one time she says to me, and I remember because I was standing on the deck. I remember exactly where I was standing on the deck, in the morning chatting. And she said, "Oh, you're a fast processor." And I'm like, what is that? What does that mean? She's like, you are thinking of things so quickly, so much faster than most people, that you're reaching conclusions and finding answers and figuring things out way before most people are even aware of what the question is. And you're already like 10 steps down the road. And I'm like, oh my God, like that happens all the time. And it's so frustrating because like and just to qualify this, there's no right or wrong way to be a fast processor or a slow there's no right or wrong way. This is how my brain works. And I can get into later. This is how my brain adapted to work to survive my environment. But being a fast processor, somebody poses a problem, a question, an idea, and I'm already without even consciously thinking of it, I am solving it, figuring it out, analyzing it, understanding what the deeper problem is, figuring out how to address that deeper problem, solve it, put it into place, and make it happen. And the person I'm with doesn't even really understand the question yet. Mm-hmm. And I've already got the whole thing figured out. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean it always works every time, but I've got a pretty strong path toward, progress or moving forward. And that can get me into trouble too, because I could be in a meeting.
Well, you're making assumptions.
That is
that process.
Yes,
includes you're making assumptions every step of the way.
That is very true, and those assumptions are not always correct.
As I say, making assumptions make an ass out of me.
Out of you and me.
I have to remind myself of that because I do the same thing. But maybe not as quickly, but I do the same thing. You have to realize when you're doing that and check yourself just to make sure you don't act on your assumption until you've quantified it or verified it or.
Yes. Yes, that is 100% true. And that can get me into trouble because I make an assumption and it's incorrect, but I've gone down this path. But thankfully, once I get that new bit of information, boom, 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 I'm right down to the next path.
You're always seeking answers, and even little answers along the way. And that's what keeps you on your track and keeps you from not just getting into trouble, but progressing. That's how you progress.
Yeah, it's like a constant iteration. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and whatever new information I get, that's fine. A lot of times most of the time my assumptions are correct, but not always. I can't even think of a story right now. They're not always correct.
I think the longer you live, especially if you're not just going through life blindly, if you're actually aware of what's going on around you and the consequences of your decisions, then you do grow. You grow.
And you can factor those things in.
Correct. You become wiser, if you will. You make hopefully fewer mistakes.
but it still happens.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, we still get mistakes. But yeah, that's a whole thing. I love that you brought up assumptions because we make those assumptions. But I don't mind checking myself. I don't mind being wrong.
Well, most people make assumptions without realizing they're making them. Therefore, they don't check them. You know, and they just kind of, you know, I've got people in my family like that. They just kind of blunder along, getting knocked back and forth till they get, you know what I'm saying. Anyway.
The long route.
The long route.
The long way around.
Longer than it has to be.
Yeah. Because when you do get that information, the correct information, it really does help straighten out the path.
Yeah.
I think.
And you have to ask questions. You have to be aware of what's going on.
Questions like questioning, right?
To me, the most profound thing is knowing when you're making an assumption. You have to know you've made an assumption.
I'm going to try to keep that in mind more.
Yeah. You know, we assume it's not going to rain today. You may want to confirm that if you're thinking about going out to a bar. But that's the kind of thing. And we have to make assumptions because you can't check everything in life. You know, you just you have to you assume that I make the assumption the Giant's going to be open all day. I make that assumption because it's not worth dickering about. If I go to one day and it's not open, I'll say, okay, well, I made the wrong assumption. But life is too complex to worry about them all.
Well, you'll bury yourself, and that's where you get the analysis paralysis.
Oh, that's a good term.
Right, or paralysis from analysis.
Yeah.
Like it kind of and that happens to a lot of people. You know, when you feel like you have to control everything and you try to get everything aligned and perfect and everything.
Control.
Yeah.
It's control.
It's control.
And it's control for fear of failing.
Yeah. Fear of failing, fear of making a mistake, fear of being judged, poorly, or another way of being judged is being devalued, tying it back to that value.
Yeah.
And devalued is deloved, and not love hurts. And nobody wants pain.
Yeah. That's true. I agree with that.
Yeah. So, well, I think that's a good place to wrap up this episode of Question It. So thank you, Dodie.
Well, thank you for including me.
Yeah, and you can come back and we can do it again with a new question another time. But until next time, peace, love, and connect.
Absolutely.